Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Legend of Zelda top 10 list on Common Warfare. It's been a little over 10 months ago since we last made one of these, so we feel it's time to get back on track and make some new lists, and on a more regular basis than last time. First off, the top 10 Zelda items. And in this list we will not necessarily look at which items are the most powerful, but rather a combination of different factors like utility, fun factor, versatility, and which items are our favorites. We'll also not restrict ourselves to weapons, bows and shields, but rather take a look at Link's more tool-centered items as a whole. We'll get into more specific categories like weapons, bows, tunics, so on in future videos. Also, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to help us reach our goal, the big 250,000 subscriber milestone. Less than 5,000 to go. But enough of delays, let's dive right into the list with number 10. The Spinner, Twilight Princess. We begin with one of my personal favorites, which would have been much higher on our list if it had much more purpose outside a dungeon where this item truly shines, namely the Arbiter's Grounds. As the Spinner is one of the most entertaining items in Zelda history, obtaining the reward after beating Death's Sword is an experience in itself. And though the time spent with the Spinner within this massive dungeon is short, it is one of my favorite Zelda experiences of all time, and the one thing that makes the Arbiter's Grounds stand out from the rest. Traveling around at high speed and jumping from side to side, avoiding deadly traps or getting on the right path on the way to Stalloed. No doubt one of the simpler bosses in the series, as you simply spin around and jump from side to side, but in what a setting. The Spinner is simply awesome and used perfectly from its reveal in the Arbiter's Grounds, but that is also where the fun unfortunately ends, with exception of a few fragments in Hyrule here and there and its castle. Its underusage outside Arbiter's Grounds is unfortunately its downfall, and it is such a shame as this is one of the best and definitely most fun Zelda items ever. Rock's Feather, Cape, Link's Awakening, Minish Cap and Oracle of Ages seasons. When gamers first booted up Ocarina of Time in the late 90s, one of the first questions they may have asked themselves was, how do I jump? A question that is only natural when coming right off of Super Mario 64. We would soon find out that there was no such button, but rather the unconventional choice was made to include an auto jump instead. The jump attack, though technically a jump, does not have much platforming usability. For the 2D installments, however, jumping had already been a part of the series since Link's Awakening on Game Boy, which introduced Rock's Feather, an enormously helpful item that gives Link the ability to get some decent airtime. It did not only continue the platforming introduced in Zelda 2, but also serves as one of Link's best defensive options in combat. The ability to launch yourself into the Z-axis is pretty much mandatory to stand a chance against certain enemies and bosses. It can be combined with the Pegasus Boots or Pegasus Seeds in Oracle of Ages and Seasons to get even more distance out of your jump. Want even more airtime? No problem, enter Rock's Cape, an upgrade to the already amazing Rock's Feather, introduced in Oracle of Seasons and later reused in Four Swords and the Minish Cap to its full potential. Rock's Cape grants Link a second jump similar to Link's double jump in Super Smash Bros., but with some extra glide time to add to the mix. Its defensive capabilities combined with the fact that it introduced overhead and side-scrolling platform challenges in top-down Zelda games grants Rock's Feather Cape a worthy spot on this list. Magic Armor, the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. Magic always brings that little extra to Zelda, and a full armor based on sorcery? Sign me on. The Twilight Princess version looks absolutely stunning with its gold and red finishes, and for us who have a Polish winged hussar as our channel mascot, it couldn't be closer to home. The golden armor and red fabric are just so good. Too bad its function is crap though, as it does protect you from damage, but unfortunately constantly drains you of rupees. Not a problem at least in the final battle where you want to look like a badass against Ganondorf, but everywhere else, it's a pain in your wallet. With that in mind, I prefer the Wind Waker's magic armor, as it may not offer much in terms of visuals, but unlike Twilight Princess armor, it only drains you of rupees when hit. As long as you keep your footing, you will not lose currency for having it equipped. That is the edge you want, but since I prefer the appearance of Twilight Princess magic armor, but the functionality of the Wind Waker's, I need to ask, why not both, Nintendo? The Beetle, Skyward Sword. The first technical item on this list, and Skyward Sword's Beetle is definitely worthy of an inclusion, mostly due to its versatility throughout the game, as it can be used for so much more after obtaining it and testing some of its perks in the Skyview Temple. However, its true potential is found outside the temple, where it can be used to pick up bombs, rupees, and ramming into smaller but annoying foes like keys. The Beetle is perfect for so much, from aerial bombardment of enemies, the first in the series until Breath of the Wild made it commonplace, and reaching corners and timeshift stones that Link cannot get to or even hit with his regular items. Yes, the bow, which is acquired at a later point in the game, takes away some of the purposes of the Beetle, but at that point you have already used the Beetle to its fullest potential for hours on end. And it is exactly this that makes the Beetle stand out, as it is utilized for a number of puzzles after its own dungeon and can to some regards be considered a precursor of an item that changed everything. More on that one soon, but first. The Pegasus Boots, a number of top-down Zelda games. Being able to move faster than a casual jog is always a good thing in our book. Thus, the Pegasus Boots, first introduced in A Link to the Past and then reused in some shape or form in almost every 2D Zelda game since, is a must-have for Link's arsenal. The Pegasus Seeds in Oracle of Ages and Seasons, while helpful, fall short compared to the boots, since their use is limited to the amount of seeds you are carrying, and also cannot be used offensively. This item is useful in so many ways. It can both be used as an offensive attack, a defensive dash to safety, clear obstacles, or cut grass at an unprecedented speed, and as mentioned before, can be combined with Rock's Feather for more jumping distance in certain Zelda games. You can even use it to cross gaps by bouncing off walls or objects, a trick that is actually mandatory to reach the hidden fairy room in A Link to the Past's final dungeon, and not surprisingly, greatly utilized during speedruns. On top of all of that, it's simply nice to have an option to move around the map much faster. The Pegasus Boots have become a staple for 2D Zelda games, and for good reasons. Now, if only they would introduce them to the 3D Zelda games, or at least bring back Majora's Mask Bunny Hood or a similar mechanic in Breath of the Wild 2, with more utility than just running faster. That would be just amazing. Bomb arrows, Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild. Arrows and the bow have been present since the very first Zelda game, and though they have appeared in different forms, it took until Twilight Princess to make them explosive. The bomb arrows in Twilight Princess are so fun to play with, as they serve both as tools to solve puzzles and clear rocks and rubble, blow up enemies, or simply fire them up in the sky for some excellent fireworks. The fun factor alone brings this one up to number 5, and its practicality in a number of locations in the game makes it hold its position firm. Breath of the Wild's bomb arrows are also tons of fun, but a little less practical, so you'll have to wait a little bit longer before the first item from that game. The Hookshot Longshot, Double Clawshot. Most Zelda games, minus Breath of the Wild. The Hookshot is one of those items that transcends across both the 2D and 3D games in the series, and no game seems to be complete without one. We're looking at you, Breath of the Wild. In all seriousness though, this item is simply amazing, and has become a Zelda tradition for a reason. Being able to scale massive gaps is already very useful, but it can also stun enemies for a decent amount of time, or even kill certain pesky enemies from a distance without wasting your ammo. And on top of that, they're also perfect to grab items and collectibles from afar. Or what about the Clawshot, or better yet, the Double Clawshot from Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword? Well, as cool as it is to Spider-Man your way across certain areas, compared to the Hookshot, they do unfortunately come with certain limitations. Its grapple capabilities are mostly restricted to grills, vines, and designated targets, whereas the Hookshot can latch onto pretty much everything made of wood and more, from crates to torches, targets, trees, treasure chests, scarecrows, or even certain enemies. While the Double Clawshot is undoubtedly more satisfying to use for traversal, the Hookshot is definitely more versatile in its use. Both, however, deserve a spot on the list, as the Clawshot has another thing going for it, like the fact that it can be used while swimming, plus the ability to stick to your target as opposed to immediately dropping down. In this regard, you know what we need? A double hookshot. Yeah, now we're talking. The Paraglider, Breath of the Wild. I'm flying into the future, a magical moment today. This line from a Norwegian ski jumping song sums this item up perfectly, as the Paraglider is magical without any magic required. Just run and jump and glide for as long as your stamina allows for, or the height you have left until you touch the ground. The Paraglider, alongside climbing, changes Zelda and in many ways gaming, as you can take full advantage of it the moment you leave the Great Plateau, and it follows you all the way to the final battle. Along the way, it removes all kinds of boundaries left in the sky and allows for exploration of Hyrule like never before. See something interesting from the top of a mountain? Just jump, release the paraglider and fly down there. Or have you been unlucky and fallen down a steep cliff? No problem, just unleash the paraglider and land safely. This item is as basic as it can get, but allows for so many opportunities, both in the open air and in minigames, which turns this item into a true OP tool when combined with Rivali's scale and vertical wind gusts. It is also the perfect tool to bombard enemies with arrows or proximity bombs. This next item is nothing less than mythical. It has been around since the very beginning, a trusty companion that has always been there to aid in Link's many journeys, and its value can never be undermined. We're of course talking about the great, the legendary, the one and only bottle. No, this is not a cheap joke. We are very much sincere. Think about it, what would Link be without his bottles? Nothing, I tell you. Throughout the series, the bottle has been one of the most important pieces of Link's pocket and can be used for so many things. Fight death by bottling a fairy, carry medicine, solve puzzles, grow plants, release killer bees to smite your enemies, store milk, trap ghosts, catch bugs, defeat evil overlords, catch fish, break Ocarina of Time by wrong warping straight to Ganon's castle from the Deku Tree, carrying tiny Deku Scrub princesses. The possibilities are endless with this item. Out of all the items on the list, when it comes to variation of use, the bottle definitely takes the cake, and you can carry more than just one, usually up to 4. Given the difficulty of a number of 2D Zelda games, the bottles are both crucial to your survival, as well as a great tool to carry some extra resources like magic around, which is especially important in A Link to the Past dungeons, as magic was very sparsely offered to you in that game's dungeons. And in Zelda's hero modes, bottle fairies are one of very few options to regain some health. In the 3D games, bottles are less important for the use of survival, since the difficulty is generally a bit more tame. Instead, their use is mostly tied to solving puzzles and even plot crucial in certain games like Ocarina of Time. It's also funny to see that Nintendo consciously programmed the bottle to be able to deflect magic from Ganondorf and his phantom in multiple games, a clear testament of its legendary status. And now our number 1 Zelda item is the Sheikah Slate, Breath of the Wild. As which other item other than Breath of the Wild's Sheikah Slate allows for creation of proximity bombs, walking on water, and even moving massive magnetic objects or freezing most enemies and objects in time, and then sending them flying over to their doom across Hyrule. The physics-based magnesis and stasis runes alone turn Breath of the Wild into Let's Play My Little Scientist with physics, something the Breath of the Wild Zelda community has taken full advantage of to create some incredible stunts across Hyrule. However, the Sheikah Slate is so much more, as it includes your map, waypoints, camera, compendium, and memories from 100 years ago. It is such a powerful tool and the closest we will ever get in Zelda to almost feeling like a god. It's simply the ultimate Zelda item, which functionalities I could gush over for hours on end. And that concludes our list. Did your favorite make it in? And if not, don't worry, these are of course just our own personal opinions, and they might still show up in future lists when we go into more specific categories like weapons or apparel. Feel free to share and discuss your favorites down in the comment section down below, and be on the lookout for more top 10s in the future, as we would love to get back to making more of these in the coming months. And as always, be sure to leave a like under this video, subscribe to Commonwealth Realm, less than 5,000 to go to 250,000, and be sure to press that shiny notification bell, and then again for all notifications to not miss any of our upcoming Zelda videos. Finally, a big thanks goes to all of you who watched this video and to all our gracious patrons on patreon.com/commonrealm. You can join them too by visiting that page or by pressing the join button here on YouTube to become a member. Until the next video, why not enjoy one of these 2 awesome videos?